I remember talking with Gil and Jim about it at a Hoopii. Gil was like, it takes a lot to have restraint. And it takes a lot to see a topography in the map and not build huge mounds and redans that, your eyes won't even believe. It's really to have restraint in architecture and design. It's really, really difficult. And, that was definitely a key to the success of the tree farm, in my opinion, just kind of the subtleties of everything and how, even the clubhouse and, how the cottages sit. They're very understated and very much fits the land.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very special episode of the Whole Story Podcast. Robbie and Jonathan here, live from Jonathan's house, also known as
Butler Cabin West.
Butler Cabin West. We're excited to be here. This was worth it for me to jump in the car from Columbia, South Carolina, to drive to Augusta to dress the same, right?
Right, exactly.
We do this all the time anyway, but
we normally are
a little
twinning.
extra special reason today.
That's exactly right. And we're starting a new service announced today that Robbie can drive to your house and bring you clothes.
Yes, probably not to everybody, but for this, absolutely. So it really all started with a podcast. The Whole Story Podcast, we're all about golf stories. Found this guy, we've been following him, Dan Drellinger, who seemingly has the coolest job in golf.
My gosh.
He works for Draddy, works for Summit Golf Brand, so Draddy, Zero Restriction, Fairway and Greens, and EP New York. His role is to talk with players and get them to be a part of that family and other brands that they want to partner with and stuff. Zac Blair, we're talking about the tree farm today. Zac Blair is one of their players, so it's kind of fitting that now you and I are part of that family. Thanks to Dan Drellinger, Billy Draddy, for liking what we do. We tell golf stories. Jonathan and I come from years of sales where we ask questions and get out of the way, and that's what we like to do with golf stories, right?
Right. I mean, it made the most sense. We tried to do other things, and then Robbie's wife, which let's give credit to our wives, they're smarter than we are.
Always.
Robbie's wife said, why don't you guys just do this instead? So here we are, almost 100 episodes in.
Yeah, we're getting close, almost there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we talk to people, we find out good golf stories from people and courses, businesses, brands, and we have some exciting things on the horizon, but now we're going to do it dressed in style, right? Like we are going to be rocking the Draddy, the Zero Restriction, the Fairway and Green. It's going to be a lot of fun. You're really excited about the Zero Restriction, especially because of our upcoming trip, right?
Yeah, so we're going to get to go to Scotland. If you haven't heard that announcement yet, we're going to play in Ireland a week before. Then we're doing the Castle course, Old Course reversed, and the Old Course. And the only thing I'm really concerned about is not being soaking wet. And so Zero Restriction, making sure that we're going to stay nice and dry while we're walking on the hallowed grounds of St. Andrews.
Yeah, it's going to be special. So this is fun. I mean, the clothes are awesome. They're comfortable. We look the same, but thankfully we look really good, even though we're dressed the same.
Yeah, and Robbie's also talked about growing out his hair.
Absolutely not.
So that's the next step.
Absolutely not. No. I'd be curious to see if cutting your hair would give you some extra strokes or something in the golf game.
No,
but, actually, we'll get to that point.
I use my hair to determine how much wind there is. I know how many extra clubs I need based on how much flow there is in the hair.
Yeah. Well, enough about us. If you want to scoop up some of these cool clothes, you can go to any of the Draddy, Zero Restriction, Fairway and Green. Go to their sites and use BestBall20 to get 20% off your order. They were kind enough to help our listeners get some cool stuff at a discounted rate. It's going to be fun, but it fits into our guest today, Drew King at the Tree Farm. I think you guys will enjoy it. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest today on the Whole Story Podcast is a friend, one of, I think, Jonathan, you'll probably attest to this after we're done, I think one of the coolest guys in golf, working in the golf industry, the golf business, Drew King. He's head pro at the Tree Farm. Drew, I was talking with a member the other day who said, and I'm going to look at my quote or my notes here. He said, Drew King is one of the best things about the Tree Farm, goes out of his way to make every single person feels like the most important person on the property that day. So Drew, welcome to the Whole Story Podcast.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate the intro. We can stop here, right? We're good?
I was about to say, it's just going to go downhill.
No, I appreciate
Let's,
you guys having me on, man. I love what you guys are doing in golf, and obviously, Robbie, been able to connect with having you down at the club, helping us out. So this has been a long time coming. I'm excited to be with you boys.
Absolutely.
yeah, I do want to mention I am only 30 minutes away, I believe, give or take.
Yeah,
But
yeah, you got
that's
to get
all
on the
right.
list. You got to get
I
on
know.
the JD call list, man. It's yeah, totally. Hey, we're always looking for part timers to come help us out. So
Yes, sir.
So, so obviously you're involved in golf, but when did that start? Is that one of your, at 4 years old, you struck a club and suddenly you knew golf was it? Or was it something later in life where you realized, I don't want a real job, I just want to do something fun?
yeah, no, it's a good question. I my family back in Boston will say he learned to walk with a golf club, and that definitely was the truth, kind of from the start. My dad played, my grandfather played, everyone kind of, my uncles and my whole family kind of was into it. So we at an early age was definitely blessed to have a little par three course in my hometown, and the goal was to be able to play the par three in a allotted amount of time and get around, and then you get to go play the 9-hole big course, which was the Muni kind of across the street, Woburn Country Club, where I kind of grew up playing. But Stoneham Oaks was a small little par three course that my mom and dad used to drop us off when we were kids. And I was fortunate. We had a bunch of guys that really liked to play, growing up, and there was always a game. And even when we were 10, 12, 13. So, we were able to graduate from the par three course over to our 9-hole Muni in our hometown of Woburn, Mass, just north of Boston. And dude, we played all summer. That's all the time we had. Once it snowed, we were playing hoops and inside when the sun set at 3:45 at night. And but yeah, golf was an all out thing early on. But it was funny with the seasonal changes. We would play whatever sport was kind of in season at that point. Baseball in the spring, golf all summer, and then hoops in the winter. So, but yeah, from an early age, it was full press on the golf.
That's awesome. Well, I know people that are listening to this on podcast form can't see it, but you mentioned your Boston roots, or outside of Boston. You're rocking a Celtics hat now. I will
Yep.
say you are a true Boston fan of all sports. I grew up in South Carolina, but when I was like that 4, 5, 6 age, my little league team for probably a 4 year stretch, we were the Red Sox every year. So I'm like, you know what? If I play for the Red Sox, I got to cheer for the Red Sox. So I've been cheering for them for a long time, and so we have a little common interest there. But we
Yeah.
could
No.
talk baseball for a long time, and the Boston sports. Jonathan would love talking baseball, but let's talk some
Not if
more
it's Red
golf.
Sox.
Yeah.
They ripped my Cardinals' heart out in, was it 2006?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, no, that was it was funny. It was such a long drought of bad sports in even just the town in general. And it was so funny because when I was 12, Brady was drafted, and my dad would get so mad. He'd be like, "You have no idea how brutal it's been here for so long." And it was like, Celtics, Bruins, Sox, Patriots, all in like a 4 year span. When I was in high school, they just went on this crazy run, and yeah, it was cool to be around the city at that time for sure. But my dad's like such a classic Boston fan. He's like, you don't know how hard it was, growing up with bad Patriots teams, and obviously the Celtics were good in the late '80s, but had a tough stretch in the '90s. But yeah, the Boston sports thing was fun growing up in the golden age, if you will. But it's been a little rough on the Pats side recently, so we're trying to hold on for dear life to our 6 Super Bowl rings.
There you go. Well, all right. So we mentioned earlier you're the head pro at the Tree Farm. Prior to that, you were at Ohoopee. We're going to talk about that as well here in a second. But kind of give us the start. Like, what was like the first golf job that you had, and kind of maybe a little bit of the progression up to maybe those last couple stops.
Yeah, totally. So, went to Methodist University. Shout out to MU. Just a really kind of profound professional golf management program, and we have some great alumni, guys all over the country. And I was fortunate to find Methodist through a friend of mine who was a senior when I was a freshman in high school. So he came back and did these great internships and worked for some cool people and ended up getting a great job. And I was kind of always working in golf in high school, Cart Barn. I had an indoor facility that I worked at, Big Six Golf Academy in Burlington, Mass. So I always was kind of around the game and knew that it was going to be some sort of a fashion of my future career. So Methodist was perfect. I did some great internships along the way. Chapel Hill Country Club, Highlands Falls for Alan Chandler, worked for the Hurricane Junior Golf Tour and did some junior stuff, and then worked at the Patterson Club in Fairfield, Connecticut. So I kind of bounced around at some great places during my internships. And then when I got out of school, I worked for a guy, Chris Case, up at Mount Kisco Country Club in New York. In Westchester in New York, the Met section is kind of a premier section in our business. A lot of accomplished players, a lot of great clubs. You got the Shinnecocks and the Nationals, and then you got the Bethpage Blacks and the, Westchester and Wingfoot and all of these great, great places. So just to be around kind of that type of professionalism with those pros up there and playing in some of the tournaments, it was kind of my introduction to the business. And they definitely, it was a real deal up there, which was awesome to kind of be a part of super early on. Was then kind of working seasonally at a club in Jupiter, Florida called Admiral's Cove, kind of a high-end residential, bells and whistles in Jupiter. You're talking, 45 holes of golf, a marina. They had a bank on site. It was
bank
just
on
it was
site.
a bank on
that's
site.
a lot of gambling if you need a bank
Yeah.
on site.
Yeah. Well, the problem was they weren't gambling on golf. That's for sure. It was I don't want to say it was low golf IQ, but it wasn't the men's club or the high golf IQ that we're kind of experienced at the Tree Farm. But it was a great place. They took customer service, kind of very seriously. And it was, like I said, the bells and whistles in terms of South Florida living. So, during that time, worked for a great guy, Matt King, who is still a close friend to this day. And he was great because he kind of saw that this type of club really wasn't, getting my energy boosted. Obviously learned a lot and got to teach and live in Jupiter kind of pre-COVID, which was a great little town to live in. It's a golf capital, as you guys know, and was able to form some great relationships and network down there. But had a friend that was working at East Hampton Golf Club on Long Island as an assistant or head pro. And, there was a guy, Michael Walrath, who owns a Hoopii, who kind of came walking through the shop one day and casually said, hey, I purchased land in Georgia, 4,000 acres. I'm going to build a golf course with Gil Hance, and kind of kept moving it through the shop. And the guy kind of looked at him twice, and they had hired the teaching professional, the director of instruction, who was also the director of golf down at Emerald Dunes, Todd Sapiri. And, my buddy had texted me, and it was funny. I was in the mix for a job back home at Woburn Country Club where I grew up, and kind of got some great experience going through the interview process. And John Gata texted me and he said, hey, I met this guy, this guy at the club's doing this thing in Georgia. He just hired Todd, who's the best. You got to meet Todd and just see what's going on. And he connected me with Todd. I was in the middle of a career, not crisis, but definitely trying to figure out my ways and, what type of facility was going to, kind of take the energy that I really wanted to, kind of put forth. And, I was going to sell shirts for Grayson or another company. And, I just wanted to be in golf, but that at Admirals, it just wasn't kind of plucking my strings, if you will. So was fortunate to meet Todd and interview at the Hoopii Match Club. And that day was something that I'll remember forever. And yeah, it was kind of history from there. As soon as I visited the property, I was kind of all in and wanted to be a part of it.
So help me understand, because honestly, I've wondered, what does a golf pro do? I mean, I always think of like bad movies, right? We have a tennis pro where all they do is like sit around and hit on old women, and like what I don't know if that happens at a golf course.
Chubbs Peterson prior to him finding Happy Gilmore,
right? But like, right. I mean, are you doing lessons? Are you just like shaking hands and kissing babies? Like, what does it look like from a course perspective? If I walk in to meet a club pro, what should I expect? What does that mean? How do you serve the Tree Farm and other places?
Yeah, totally. So it's definitely situational, right? Depending on the facility you're at, certain facilities call for certain duties, if you will, on a day-to-day. I'll say at the Tree Farm, we focus a lot on the merchandise side of the club. It's a monster of ours that we have kind of, over time, it's just developed and become this crazy, kind of thing with doing $2 million in sales last year and providing kind of different merchandise and different, slight little humble brag there. Sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't mean to drop that, but no, I think it's all situational, but the member experience is certainly kind of top of the list in terms of if you're at a local country club, you're giving lessons or, catering to a member's needs. But, a lot of it is at the tree farm, at least, is we kind of host a member guest every day. So we have, member plus 3 guests or member plus 7 guests. And these members from a standpoint of looking at them as a whole, a lot of them are national members. So a lot of them take 1 or 2, 3 trips a year, and they put it on the books in advance, and it's a big deal for their guests. And when they show up, it's they jump out of the car and they're open-eyed, kind of excited to be there. So our job is to kind of deliver this day-to-day member guest type experience where the coolers are filled, the music is playing, the shop's fully stocked, the food's on point, our caddy's on point, the rhythm of the round is on point, and just kind of our choreographing of how we do kind of our day-to-day and serving 100 rounds or so is definitely the main focus. And a lot of it is again that feeling of being somewhere special, spending some time with good people, and the camaraderie of things just kind of being the focus. But it's different. You got a place like, Augusta Country Club. Tommy Brennan may see a guy walk through the shop 5 times a week, and he's already caught up with a member for 10 or 15 minutes the day before, and he's just kind of giving them a wave and walking through and going to chip and putt and then heading to go pick up his kids or whatever it may be. So like I said, it's different from every club, but merchandising the experience, and kind of making sure that our pace of play and everything is kind of up to speed with that's kind of a snippet of what the tree farm kind of demands on a daily.
Were you one of the golf pros that would make the journey to Augusta once a year to go and hang out at the course and help people and do all the little odd jobs that they have club pros do?
No, I wasn't. I have a lot of friends that were.
Yeah.
I may not be tailored to the Augusta National vibe as close as I am with those guys. How much I love spending time with the pros down there, and a couple of alumni are like my dearest friends. One has been my friend since college, and he's moved on to another spot. But my energy is very tree farm driven and Ohoopee driven. It's I don't know if I could. I got a beard, and I call it dap and hug is how I give handshakes to people. And people operate differently in different spaces, and I think I've been to Augusta for the tournament and been fortunate to actually play it as well. And what those guys do is top notch, but it's definitely brand specific. And I think that's the case for a lot of guys that have success in their at their clubs, is they fit the brand of what these places are trying to kind of accomplish and what they're trying to portray. So I don't know if I could do the Augusta thing on a daily.
Well, I mean, what you're doing at Tree Farm is awesome, and let me put Tree Farm on the shelf for 1 second. I do want to go back to Hoopii, because that's a course that not everybody has heard about. When you have heard about it, it's like, oh man, what's that? And then immediately it gets on your bucket list, right? Like it's on mine, pretty high up. It's a place that I would love to go play, but I'll let you describe kind of the scene there and what the course is all about. What I hear is, you're not really playing to a score. You're playing a match with your buddies, and you're just out there having fun. You can kind of be creative with everything, but I'll let you describe Ohoopee and then kind of your experience there.
Yeah. So Hoopii was really, really interesting and different. Michael Walrath, who's the owner, he had been on so many of these golf trips, and at the end of the day, he was, whether you had 4, 8, 12, 16, it was always a match play battle, and you split the teams in half, and 8 guys represented the west side and 8 guys represented the east side, and you played matches. Nobody kept score. If one guy was puking in the fescue because he was had too much to drink the night before, his partner had him covered, and it was all good. Like we'll just figure out who won the match, and we'll just be kind of done with it at dinner, sitting around having drinks. So the idea of having his own place was driven off of, man, I go on these trips and all we do is play match play. So in talking with Gil Hance and Jim Wagner and their team, it was when they got hired to kind of come and build a Hoopii, it was the idea and the premise was based off of match play. So what that means is you can take risks with green designs and hole locations and tee boxes and trees in the middle of fairways, because it doesn't matter about traditional stroke play. Like me and Jonathan are playing Robbie and his buddy, and we're playing either from 70 yards or from 700 yards. Par is irrelevant. Your score is irrelevant, and no one cares where you shot, and it's who won the match. And that was kind of the basis when I met Todd. And I remember getting to the second fairway or second green during our interview. I showed up in a shirt and tie because I was very Jupiter and very Admiral's Cove. He's like, you got your golf clothes, right? I'm like, yeah, I brought them. I just wasn't sure. He's like, go change. We're going to tee it. So we threw our clubs in a gas carry-all cart. We buzz up to the first tee. We tee off. And he's talking to me about the club. He's like, yeah, we got 16 members, a single owner. We got 22 holes of Gil Hance design. And my head is just spinning. I'm like, so he's listing off the members, and obviously you recognize a few names. And we get to 2 fairway, and we hit our shots, and we're kind of in the cart. And I'm like, I don't know what you guys got going on out here, but I'm in. Like I think Gil Hance already built 22 holes. You got a clubhouse that's going up. You got 16 members. This match play thing is so cool. It's so different. And I was kind of all in from the start, but Mike was his, I've said this before, used to want to be like Michael Jordan. You want to be like Michael Walrath. I mean, that was like Mike changed as soon as I stepped foot on a Hoopii, and it was kind of, fun from there. But the premise of the golf course was so interesting. There's half pars out there. So if you're playing a par 3.5, like, what does that mean? Okay. I should have driver in my hand. I should be able to get it up by the green. I shouldn't drive the green every time, but I should be close enough where it's you're flirting with that drivable par 4. And I think a par 4.5, a par 5.5, all mean different things. And Gil and Jim, their team was it was incredible to watch it come to life. And definitely a playground for golf.
That's awesome.
I was just about to say, it sounds like a playground, right? It's more
it was so cool.
How can you play, mess around, do all the fun stuff that you only do whenever you're in a match play or some sort of captain's choice type thing.
Well, Jonathan, if you're paired up with Drew, I'll go ahead and say y'all are going to win the match.
Oh, there's a good chance I could bring it down. Listen, 3.5 is like more like a 7 or 8. If a drivable par 3 is still under 120 yards, right?
Hey, the cool thing about a Hoopii is that a half par was different for everybody. So that was kind of the other cool thing. To your point, you teed it up perfectly. Is like, hey, if you got 4 guys that drive it 180 yards, your par 3.5 is different from my par 3.5, and we kind of catered to each group to kind of create that experience. So it was certainly important.
They pick, like, whoever wins picks the next tee box, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What?
So that was a cool thing we did. You'd flip a tee on the first tee, and you'd pick who got the choice. So if your team was a little bit longer of a hitter, or you wanted to kind of stretch it, you could kind of choose a different tee for your advantage of playing a specific hole. And then, if you lost the hole, the tee would get kind of flipped back to another group, or, to the other 2 guys to pick. So, we put a lot of trust in our caddies. I think they did an amazing job of just, if you didn't have a member in a group, it was kind of hard to digest, but they did an amazing job of just, again, trying to, put what Gil and Jim put together on display, because it was so different.
That's cool.
Sounds like a lot of smiles after the round.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
God, it sounds like a lot of fun. So what I got asked then, what took you from there to the tree farm? I mean, a tree farm does have scores on the scorecard, and you're playing 2 pars. I didn't see any half pars on there yet, but what was the draw? Was it Zac Blair? Was it the team that designed it? What drew you from Ohoopee to the tree farm?
Yeah, no, for sure. It's a good question. I was the lead assistant at Ohoopee, and in that role, I think if you're a lead assistant somewhere, you got to have your ears and eyes open to kind of jump on a next great opportunity. And, I had a couple things come up prior to Tree Farm, which were just great experiences, intriguing, wanting to explore kind of the head pro director of golf kind of position. And again, great mentor in Todd, as the head pro down there, and great mentors leading up to that, that were kind of helping me move on. And but I had so Zac came to Ohoopee, and we have a couple mutual members that were on the development team at Tree Farm that were at Ohoopee. So I had a kind of an early glimpse on what they were trying to do back in 2019, end of 18, beginning of 19 into 20. And Zac had surgery, labrum, I think it was, and he was out, but he was on a trip, to Ohoopee, and with a couple of the developers, and he kind of got out of his car. I remember he had a tape measure in his pocket or in his hand, and I mean, immediately out of the car, measuring locker space, measuring pro shop counter space, what we had back in our storeroom. He had a rangefinder at each corner of the range, shooting the depths of how much range space we had, and really just kind of gathering all of this information. And he had done it with a bunch of different other professionals at their places, and everyone that came across Zac during that 2-year stretch of pre-Tree Farm development was he was great. He wanted to get shown around. He wanted to see what we had built at Hoopii, what worked, what didn't, what we do differently. And again, was super fortunate early on to meet him and meet the team. And, just before, like as the land was being purchased, I was kind of meeting with him and chatting with him, and just the talks kind of progressed, and we stayed in touch. And, he would Instagram message me late asking me what brands were moving the best out of the Hoopii shop, and how many events we ran, and do the members like member guests or member members. So again, just the one of his strengths is the gathering of information, and allowing everybody to kind of lead him in a direction that will kind of satisfy the masses, and kind of cater to everybody. So I just kind of, and continue to keep in touch. It was a pretty organic process with him and I, and, again, knew a few members that were involved early on. So, full support from Todd and Walrath, and the team at Ohoopee. And it was kind of an easy decision. It was really cool.
As someone who's sort of behind the scenes of it all, what do you think is the draw suddenly to the Aiken, South Carolina area, right? You've got Old Barnwell, you've got the 21 Club that's coming up in Jackson soon. There's rumors of another course just over the river at North Augusta, and then obviously Tree Farm. Why is it that sort of the I-20 corridor between Augusta and Columbia is suddenly booming with these amazing golf courses?
Yeah, no, I think, a lot of it has to do with the season. I think the main draw for Zac in particular, and I think a lot of these clubs, is trying to figure out a really cool place for the people in the Midwest, Northeast to kind of travel to during the off season, and that's, late fall, winter, early spring. The land's incredible, affordable. You look south of Jacksonville and what's going on in South Florida, just from a golf standpoint as well, and from a cost of living. I mean, you can literally, throw a dart at Florida, and there's a new course being built within, 20 miles or 30 miles of where that dart would land. So, I think we're in a time where destination golf is definitely booming, and I think a lot of people like to get away and then come back to kind of where they reside. And I think, like I said, the land's really good. The seasonality is really good. And I think the land's somewhat affordable compared to maybe a Florida or, a coastal, kind of area. I know a couple projects that are starting in the Charleston area, and, land's just different down there because it's by the water. And, the other draw is Augusta National. I mean, we have the Super Bowl of golf, and everybody can kind of, shake the tree, if you will, during those times. And, you just got a lot of people traveling in this area for golf, not only in April, but, starting to now in kind of the shoulder months. And I think, yeah, the land is definitely key because, an architect is going to come in and say, I can do this, this, and this, but I got to move a lot of dirt to kind of accomplish what you're trying to do, and that builds costs. And if you have a flat piece of boring land, it's hard to really kind of create something drastic and cool. So I think, yeah, there's a lot of factors. South Florida is just getting jam packed and busy, and people want to get away from that stuff too. So I think that has a little bit to do with it as well.
Well, you mentioned the land and kind of the environment and everything. The sandy soil is perfect. Well, Tom Doak, Kye Goalby, and Zac, they kind of teamed up together to develop what is the tree farm. And now I would say it's not just the land, but like what they have built and designed is a huge draw. Anybody that's seen pictures of it, they've watched Jeff Marsh's, tree farm in 4K video. It's awesome. Highly recommend you watch that. But they've built something that people want to go to. So for somebody that hasn't seen it yet, hasn't watched that video or any other stuff, describe the course for everybody.
Yeah, the course is incredible. It's natural. It kind of it blends with the land. The whole idea, and Zach's whole idea, he's a purist, right? I mean, there's stuff overseas that was built way back in the day when golf was first getting going that he just oohs and ahs over. The traditional, overseas original golf design with, bunkers that were just part of land that were just dug out, and, rough that grows because, goats don't go over and graze, like that gets him fired up. So, the combination between the land, what Doak was able to do from a routing standpoint, and then you bring in a guy like Kye who just has a ton of experience in working with Gil and Jim, and doing his own thing and restorations, and looking at history at clubs and bringing clubs back to what they used to be. And then you mix in Zach's, like I said, passion for traditional golf. It's a very natural, firm, fast fairways into native areas that looked unkept, but have a means to keep upkeep. Nick Roth, our superintendent director of greens and grounds, is a stud. He, has built drainage in areas to allow bunkers to maintain, structure, and has just kind of created natural areas that require a lot of work, but come off as you wouldn't really notice to the eye. I would say like Pinehurst #2 meets Bandon Dunes meets some movement, of an Augusta. I mean, there's a lot of cool things out there that can bring your eyes to say, oh man, this looks like X or this looks like Y. And I think testament to Zach and Kye of just gathering all of this great golf that they've, experienced and seen. And Doak's routing obviously was a huge part of the whole process. Zach was originally going to do a routing with King and Collins, and they were kind of on tap to help out with the project. And one thing led to another, where Zach met Kye, and Kye said, "Man, it'd be really cool if we sent this this topography map to Doak and to see if he would have any input." And Zach received a Doak a routing from Doak on Christmas Day. It was like a very weird. Doak was like "Merry Christmas" and sent Zach a routing. And kudos to Z. He'll never say it, but a lot of his holes were in Doak's routing. But there were a lot of holes that weren't, that were like, man, this is cool. Like Doak is very much works from the green and works back, right? He finds green complexes in topography maps and gets like, okay, this is where the green's going to be. Now we got to work back and figure out where to tee off. Where Zach was kind of like, all right, where do we play to? So it was interesting for Tom to, kind of provide a routing. And after that, Tom was, fortunate or whatever enough to give Kye and Zach the keys to build it. And, it kind of, propelled from there. But definitely a natural, undulating, firm, fast fairways into native kind of sand, and really built into the land, which is really, really cool and subtle, definitely like, I remember talking with Gil and Jim about it at a Hoopii. Gil was like, it takes a lot to have restraint. And it takes a lot to see a topography and a map and not build huge mounds and redans that your eyes won't even believe. It's really to have restraint in architecture and design. It's really really difficult, and that was definitely a key to the success of the tree farm, in my opinion. Just kind of the subtleties of everything, and how even the clubhouse, and how the cottages sit. They're very understated and very much fits the land.
As someone who's obviously very familiar with the course, there's going to be the obvious ones, right? If you're staying in there, Robbie has so graciously shown me a picture of the place I want to hang out on the porch, watching other people play golf some days. But if you're someone out there and maybe they don't get a chance to talk to you personally, where would you tell them to stop and pause as like sort of the hidden gem of the golf course?
Man, that's a good question. I think when you get to four green, you can kind of just pan and look to your right if you're playing the hole. And it's funny because going back to that member guest mentality, it's really like when you arrive, you're kind of like put into a dryer, right? It's like you're like, where do I go? I'm here. I'm so excited. I go down. I have lunch, maybe grab a cocktail, and like you're hitting balls. You're like, man, I'm about to play, and it has that feel where you're definitely pumped up. And I think you start with a par three, which is super unique. You play two and three, which three can kind of kick you in the and really like you're kind of like, man, this place is tough, and you're playing uphill. And then four is designed after Pine Valley's fifth hole. And for anybody who's played Pine Valley, it's a really hard par three up the hill, a lot of bunkers, just a difficult hole. And I think once you get to that green, it's kind of like your view and your panorama. You can kind of take a deep breath, and you just, man, this is really cool. I'm here. I've played four really different cool holes, and the round kind of gets in rhythm, I think, after that green. So yeah, kind of panning to your right after you get on four green is a really cool spot. You can see 9, 10, 11, 12, kind of the backside of the clubhouse. So it's a cool spot.
That stretch of 3 and 4 have to be maybe the two toughest holes back to back. At three,
Yeah.
like you said, it's actually a long par four, maybe a 4.5, just unofficially. And then number four is probably a 3.5, if not a short par four. So
Yeah,
it's a great spot.
yeah, we went through a stretch. So early on during preview play, we couldn't start on number one because the range wasn't open and the clubhouse was under construction. So we were starting on four, and you'd have to get out of the car and hit like 3 8-irons into a net and like walk down to 4T from our temporary arrival, and you'd be meeting your caddy, you'd be shaking your hand, and you'd like tee up, and the caddy would be like, hey, you got 265, and the guy's like, oh, cool drivable par four to start. He's like, nah, it's a par three. You're like, okay.
265?
To
Is
a
it-
back pin on the back tee. Yeah, you can stretch it. It goes to like 280, which is
It's real downhill, right? That's the only thing that could be a saving grace. Come on,
Robbie's
man.
like, nope, I've walked that before.
Yeah,
Golly.
and it's not just uphill; it's downhill then uphill. So there's a big old spot, Jonathan, for you to dribble
Yeah.
your ball off the tee and have to go get it.
Right.
He's my partner though, so as long as I hit the green, we're good.
There you go. That's true.
I don't have a 285 club. That's a problem for most people. I don't know if you guys know that.
You gotta add two together.
Right.
Get there.
Right. 999, and I'm hopefully shooting par.
There you go. Well, so what's been some of the challenges, right? So new course, you're introducing a lot of new people to this property. Like you said, it's a member guest event pretty much every time. So you've got at least probably 3 people that have never seen it. What are some of the challenges that go into operating and running a course on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. I think the one thing that's interesting and difficult is the walking side of it. A lot of people take carts at home, and shout out to your logo. I know you got a buggy on the logo. So, but a lot of people ride 18 and play in 4 hours, and have a normal routine with playing in a golf cart. So I think the walking aspect can be challenging at times for someone that isn't used to it. But it's also, kind of one of our strengths too, because walking with a caddy and a good caddy and experiencing kind of the rhythm of golf while walking is something that a lot of people haven't been introduced to, that I think when they leave us, they're kind of like, man, that was nice to be able to worry about my own stuff and walk to my ball and play my own shot. I think the other side is, we're different in the fact that we don't have a billionaire, writing checks for us. We're a member usage driven, place where we have to, kind of have a X amount of, people on an overnight and X amount of people on the tee sheet. So, getting the people to, use it and stay active and, trying to figure out what's a good member number for us and how our occupancy is going to be, kind of used is definitely something I don't know. It's a challenge, but just something that you learn and have to, kind of develop with as the club grows. But yeah, I think, again, the walk-in aspect is kind of different. And I think the golf course isn't super easy. It's forgiving off the tee, but you got to be great around the green. So, it can be difficult if you're not a great short game player or you have trouble, feeling some putts and stuff. So it can get difficult out there, but I think it's also forgiving enough to kind of be enjoyable as well.
Well, I mentioned, or you mentioned, or something that the cottages recently opened, the restaurant recently opened, and I've already commented, told Jonathan, it's like one of the coolest hangs, I think, in golf, where you're watching the first tee, that par three, go away from you. If you're sitting on that back porch, you can kind of turn to your left a little bit and see 18, everybody driving to come in. So just describe kind of the change, because, I mean, we're recording this in December. It'll air late January, but the cottages and stuff haven't been open but a couple months at this point. So how's that been going and kind of the feedback you guys are receiving?
Yeah, no, for sure. It was a big milestone for us. November 8th, we opened 52 beds in a full food and beverage operation. We were kind of slated for a November 1st opening, and then Helene kind of, put a halt to kind of a few things in the construction side of it. But we officially got open on the 8th, and our GM Eric Dietz came from Mountain Lake down in South Florida, and he's got a lot of great experience in the world of golf. And we hired a team of food and beverage with, Kevin Kenyon and Fred Ramsey, our chef, and Kevin's our AGM, and they've done an amazing job of just kind of really understanding the culture and what we've from the golf side of things, what we've kind of been up to for the last 2 years. We had a full season, September to June last year, of just day golf. So while the construction was going on, we did over 11,000 rounds and had a great year in the shop. And, we were able to kind of meet a bunch of members and their guests. And, again, just trying to develop the tree farm, kind of feels and what we were going to be all about was really important last year. So to open up the cottages, open up the food and beverage operation, and have that all kind of make sense, about what the tree farm is all about, they did an amazing job right away. It was like you could feel it, and it was really cool from going from eating Sheely's barbecue in a tent with flies flying around and everyone's sweating and everyone's just kind of like, members are just eating like, yeah, what's that meme where all the fires going on around the guy and it's like, it's fine, like we're fine. Like it was very much a kind of a crazy start, but also like those are the times you look back on and are just like, man, that was fun as hell. We crushed it. We were just having fun with golf, and everyone was just down having a good time and staying in Aiken or staying in Columbia, staying in Augusta, and just trying to make a way to figure out how to get there. So I think, just opening was so important just from the culture to kind of finish what we were sought out to do. And I think everybody's been blown away. The feedback's been incredible. I think, maybe it's, a little better than people were expecting, which I think comes with how good the golf course was and how fun it was, that they really weren't worried about the food or the overnight. It was just kind of like, man, we got a really great golf course. So that's going to take care of whatever we roll out. But the team has just rolled out a really cool product. And like I said, Chef's done an amazing job. Kevin, our AGM, has done an amazing job. Just, again, the culture and the vibe has been on point, and we're just kind of riding a wave right now. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I want to echo my friend who's a member, his take on you. We had known each other and kind of followed it, and you at least had made me feel like it, that you had followed best ball and appreciate what we were doing when I came and played it back in March. But the things I remember that stand out, you were out there greeting, a number of the staff were out there greeting when we got there. We played, I remember distinctly, on 16, we get up to the punch bowl green, and it's kind of down in, yeah, obviously a punch bowl down, and all you just hear this doom, doom, and it's music, and you come riding up on your scooter, and it's like, there's the head pro, come riding up, he's riding a scooter, music playing, and you're like, how's it going, guys? Like, this is awesome. I'm glad y'all are here, and you did make us feel like we were the most important people on the property that day. So everything you guys are doing from start to finish is you're building a great place that people want to go to and want to come back.
Yeah, got a great team, dude. The guys, I mean, just on the golf side, got 10 guys that are just so fired up for the project. They all do amazing things, you know, at other clubs during the summer, and the full-time staff is incredible. Just been super fortunate to just have a group of guys that just understand, you know, this end goal of creating something that's so different. You know, we wear hoodies, we wear Carhartt. You know, everyone, if you want a beard, you can have a beard. I mean, it's just untraditional to the world of golf, but it's refreshing. You know, I think guys really can feel, you know, to your point, even that one interaction of just the come as you are, you know, kind of feeling of being somewhere and not having to worry about, you know, hey, if I untuck my shirt, you know, or my hat's on inside, like, is someone gonna, you know, come at me and say, hey man, you got to tuck your shirt in? Like, you know, Zach's big thing was he never wanted people to feel like, you know, whatever they wore, how the music was, affected anybody else, you know, else's trip. And, you know, I think it's super important to, you know, for these new age clubs to really lean into the fact where it's like, it's okay for you to wear a hoodie or a t-shirt to dinner if you want to. You know, if you want to wear a button down and a jacket, no one's going to say anything, you know, as if you were in a t-shirt. So come as you are. You know, that mentality has definitely gone into kind of our procedures and how we handle things. And again, I think it's an easy, refreshing, fun, you know, way to kind of visit a place. And, you know, we're loving it. It makes it easy for the staff because everyone can be themselves. There's not a script you have to follow. It's just, let's provide the best experience we can for each group. And, you know, let's just let everybody have a good time.
Yeah, y'all are doing it well.
The more you talk, I keep hearing Yankees, not Red Sox. Or no, wait a minute. Sox, not Yankees. Like wearing beards, do whatever you want. You just have this hatred for all the things that should just make it fun, right?
Yeah, hatred for proper, right?
There you go. I got to ask before we'll jump in here in a second and have some fun questions and stuff, and we'll ask about your shot. But for those that don't know, there's a set of tees called the Tree Monster tees. Who besides Zach is playing these tees? Yes, shout out to Seth McWhorter for some awesome logos.
Shout out to Seth, man.
Oh, he does such a great job, doesn't he?
He's the GOAT.
Yep, he is awesome. So
we hit him with ideas, and he just comes up with stuff. It's incredible. Yeah, a lot of credit to Seth for sure.
Who's playing the Tree Monster tees? Because like Jonathan was saying on number 4, and you said it could stretch to 260. Like, is it just Zach? I mean, you got a bunch of Zach's pro buddies coming out there doing that, or does any regular member say, all right, let's give it a shot today?
Yeah, we have a couple flushers, man. We have a couple guys that can play, guys that played college golf, guys that still want that smoke, if you will, and we'll tip it out. You know, we had the Stanford kind of alumni golf team was here last couple of days. They played it all the way back. We go out and we get our teeth kicked in from all the way back, and it's fun to have matches from back there. You know, and yeah, we have a decent amount of people that will get back there, and it plays 73 and change, but it's a bouncy 73. You know, it's not plug and swing through it all day, but it's fun. You know, Zach and the team kind of decided that we put a tee marker in that place, and we have a special scorecard for it. It's just fun to be able to, you know, if you want it, go back and get it. You know, and it's everything you want. When people say the club is too easy, I always say, come back. I'll set the golf course up for you, and then we'll chat afterwards, because you can get after it out there for sure. But yeah, we have a few members that can play back there.
Very nice.
Yeah.
You just sort of dropped in there Stanford alumni golf. Was that the Tiger was out there too, or was that just?
Yeah, no, no Tiger. But we had some of the one of our members graduated from there and played golf, and had some of the team members out just recently the last couple days. So that was a
That's awesome.
recent trip. But we got a bunch of guys that take it on. Nobody has been uber successful from back there, but it's a fun tee to play.
That's awesome. All right. Well, getting back, you mentioned in there you get to play a little bit, and I know you're probably an incredible golfer. I've never seen you play, but I wouldn't doubt it. But we ask everybody, tell us the story of your most memorable golf shot.
Most memorable golf shot. Um, let's see. So my second hole in one. I had a hole in one down in Jupiter, but my second one was the first ever at the Hoopii Match Club on hole 16. So we had just opened in October. This was in December, and again, very limited play early on, and we were kind of, we got a bunch of par threes out there. So it was myself and Dan Guidarelli, who was another assistant at the time. And we played two guys from Georgia Southern, Brett Barron and Wilson Andreas. Wilson's actually playing Corn Ferry stuff. Georgia Southern they had a bunch of studs at the time, and Brett could have probably played too. He had the cheat codes for sure. But so we were three down with three to play. We're on 16, which is a short par three. So Brett and Wilson both stick it to like nothing, and Dan and I are just getting our asses kicked. I mean, we're just surviving at this point. And Dan hits one up there to about 20 feet, and he was like, "Bro, we gotta make this to like get this match to continue." And gap wedge right at it, a little left of it, hit twice, spun right, and went in the hole for a hole in one. And I wish we would have ended up winning the match, but those boys made two birdies on 17, and we were closed out. But it was, off the top, probably one of the cooler shots. I remember again just getting our faces kicked in all day by these boys, and we had a little hope going to 17, but not so much.
Man, what a story.
Yeah.
Wilson, those guys. I mean, they had a squad. They were like 20 something in the country at the time, kind of a sleeper. They played NCAAs. They had a good team, and they would come out and help caddy, and they were a huge help early on at the hoop. So shout out to the Georgia Southern boys. They're good dudes.
All right. Well, man, hole in one. I can't wait. You got your second one. That was your best story, not even your first one.
Yeah, that's funny. None for you, Jay?
No, like I gotta get it to the green first. If it's a puttable par three, maybe I could get it there. But
you got
Texas
any hole in ones, Robbie?
No, close, but always writing down twos instead of ones. So yeah.
All right.
Maybe someday out at Tree Farm.
There you go.
Yep.
Not on number 4, but maybe another hole.
Yeah, no.
When I played it, I hit the green on 4. So hopefully I two putted it, but yeah, hit the green.
Driver?
Make that note.
No, it was like 7 wood, I think.
Okay, well
so the front tee plays probably like 215 or 220, and then it kind of stretches back from that. So
yeah, it was like 225, 230 that day or something.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right.
There you go. Yeah, tough hole.
Yeah.
Well, we like to do another thing we call the quick 9, just a little back and forth. And I'm really interested in the first question because you played a lot. What is the favorite course that you've ever played?
Favorite?
Yeah.
My favorite is probably Fisher's Island, outside of kind of in between Connecticut and New York. It's about as cool as it gets. I don't know if it's the best golf course I've played, but definitely my favorite.
Nice.
That's awesome. Well, you've mentioned Ohoopee. I know for Jonathan, that and Tree Farm are on his bucket list. What course is still on your bucket list?
Ooh, bucket list. Haven't spent any time overseas. That's definitely, want to play St. Andrews, want to do that whole, that whole thing over there, man. There's just so much golf to be played over there. But I think Cypress Point is definitely on top of my list. I've just heard amazing things, and it continues to be at the top of the rankings. And just, again, heard nothing but great things. But Cypress for sure.
Absolutely.
With all of your insider knowledge, what is the best course that no one knows about?
Best course that no one knows about. That's a really good question. Ooh.
And we're not going to take the one where you're like, well, people know about it now. I want one that like
That 9-hole course he grew up playing.
right.
Yeah,
The par three.
Everybody learned about that 30 minutes ago, so you got to come up with something better.
Yeah. Best course that no one knows about. That's a tough one, man. I mean, that I've played or just in general?
Just in general.
In general.
Man, that is a really, really good question. I mean, a lot of people don't know about Ohoopee, and it's really, really special. So I could probably bow out and say Ohoopee, but there's a course in Savannah called the Ford Plantation that's like super cool that no one really talks about. Got a cool front and back nine. I don't think that's a great answer, but I'll go with Ohoopee. Ohoopee's a good one that no one knows about. That's a good question though.
Well,
I think of one that in the next couple of minutes I'll let you know. But that's a good question.
We're always looking for hidden gems, man. Something that, and it doesn't have to be the highest rated on all these public lists and everything, but yeah.
MacArthur in South Florida is really special. They got the milk jug logo. It's one of my favorites in Florida that doesn't really get a ton of press, but MacArthur is really, really cool. Core Crenshaw just built another course there that's supposed to be pretty special too. So that's another kind of hidden gem.
Nice.
But yeah, no, it's a good question.
Cool. All right. Well, let's take 18 holes there at Tree Farm. If you could only play one hole for the rest of your life, what hole are you playing?
18, no question. Drivable par 4, huge sloping green right to left, clubhouse and bar kind of behind. It's a theater for everybody that finishes. From the front tee, it plays 215 yards. From the back tee, it plays 285. It's drivable for everybody. Everybody gets a shot at kind of rolling a drive. Even Jonathan would get a chance to roll one up on the green, and just a cool green, cool finishing hole. And you add the spectators now behind in the restaurant in the patio. It's everybody comes off beaming. So I think if you could play 18 all day and try to hit driver and make hole in one, I think you'd be all right for sure.
You just
Jonathan, yeah, I was going to say, it's kind of like Jonathan has been to Caledonia, True Blue. So like you said, those theaters where you've got, especially if you're at a group with your buddies and they've already finished and you're the last group coming up, they're up there with a beer in hand, either cheering or ready to boo. So it's fun.
Caledonia is awesome. I went down there in high school my dad used to get the summer deals, and we used to go sweat our asses off down there and, pay nothing to stay and play and do all these things. But I remember going to that place really young and loving it. We went back every year. That True Blue Caledonia stretch is really, really good. Really good.
Yep, we agree.
I'm not sure the Tree Farm understands par 3, par 4, because you just listed a shorter distance for the par 4 than what you've listed for the par 3s. Like something, it's South Carolina math from the Georgia side.
Yeah, we're a little challenged. At the Tree Farm for sure.
All right, who would be in your dream foursome?
Dream foursome. Let's see. Tiger Woods, Kevin Garnett. Yeah, Tiger Woods, Kevin Garnett, and TB12 probably.
Does Kevin play golf?
I don't even care, dude. He can sit in the car. I just want to listen to him for 4 hours. He would just
trash talk you for 4 hours straight.
Yeah, he was awesome. Like my favorite of all time. Just competitor. I mean, as fun, as tough as they come, and he would just be fun to listen to for 4 hours.
I bet.
And he's from South Carolina, man. Let's go.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Let's go.
KG, hit us up.
Yep. All right. Well, I know the answer. You're a Yes of Music on the Course guy. What are you listening to?
Yeah, all over the place, man. The late 90s, 2000 rap and hip hop is kind of what I grew up on, and dive into a little bit of the electronic EDM, kind of nothing crazy, but kind of the Kygoes of the world, if you will, and like alternative, kind of all walks of music. We're playing music all day long, so everybody gets a chance on the aux, and you got to have music playing. It's soundtrack to life is what we call it. So music's always playing in our world for sure.
That's awesome.
Yep. Sounds great.
Yep.
All right. So one of my most favorite questions ever: what is their favorite snack on the golf course?
Probably an Uncrustable. We've, canned Gatorade and Uncrustable is kind of what we're known
Ooh,
for, which is
canned
weird. You
Gatorades.
think, yeah, you give a guy who has everything an Uncrustable and a canned Gatorade, and you feel like you've led them to the fountain of youth. Like, hey, this will change your life. So people love an Uncrustable and love a canned Gatorade. So, the Tree Farm definitely delivers on the fifth tee. You can kind of grab a canned Gatorade and an Uncrustable. It doesn't get much better than that.
And
Well,
then look around at the views, and you're just like,
Yeah,
this
there
is
you
it.
go. Come
Yeah.
on,
they give it to you
strategically
at
placed.
they give it to you at the 50 because they're like, listen, I know we almost crushed your soul on the last
Yeah,
4 holes. Let's
exactly.
please keep going and tell your friends.
That's hilarious. That's so true. It's like, man, welcome. So,
We're we're
here's
sorry.
yeah,
Here's an
sorry for
Uncrustable.
everything. Here's this. Here, what's the Happy Gilmore thing? He's like, hey, eat this, leave us alone. And like
The
that's essentially
lady.
what we're doing. Yeah, lady,
Yeah.
leave us alone. Yeah, that's essentially what we're doing.
That's awesome. Well, we already mentioned Seth McWhorter designed some incredible logos for you guys.
Mhm.
Hoopii has an incredible logo, the onion, for those that haven't seen it. So I'm taking those off the list. What's
Okay.
the best golf course logo?
Mm. Best logo in golf, taking out Tree Farm in a Hoopii. Man, that's tough. MacArthur has the milk jug. I think the milk jug's super cool. I like the logos that stand alone and don't have a date or wording. I think those are really iconic. I think I'd probably, man, MacArthur, the milk jug just sticks out. So I'll go with the milk jug. It's a super cool place, super unique, and they just built, like I said, another course, and they have a milk truck as the logo for the other course. So they got the branding figured out. It's super dope.
That's awesome.
It's awesome. Well, you
Yep,
just
super cool.
mentioned you've got the cottages, you've got the restaurant, you get everything else. What's next for the tree farm for the rest of once this releases? What's next for the rest of 2025 and moving forward?
Yeah, just kind of continuing to, this is our first year fully kind of operational from a lodging food standpoint. So, we got a lot to, kind of prove, if you will, or, kind of deliver for our membership and their guests. So just staying consistent through this season. We closed in the middle of June, and, we got our first masters with lodging that, I'll plug on here, that we're accepting, tee times from, the public, which I think was super important to Zach early on, was to find a week or a time where access can be given to, people that aren't members or aren't affiliated with the club. So we have a 10-day stretch. April at the treefarm.golf takes all those inquiries, and we can, you can come play the tree farm. Anybody can. And I think that's a really cool thing. I think Zach had always wanted to give access to kind of the world of golf. And yeah, that's how the place was kind of, started. And, you look back on the Buck Club and what the goals were there. I mean, I think, the access, point of the club is super important. So we're going to do that again this year. We had great success with it last year, and a ton of great experiences and feedback. So, but yeah, just staying consistent. And we got a couple member events that'll be the first of their kind on an overnight base. And I've told our founders this at one of our founders event. This is the first time that you get to play in a member event. Like, your name goes on a trophy, and you're in 2025 the first name to ever get on this trophy. And in 100 years, they talk about those people and those things. And I think it's unique. And you get caught up in what's going on at other places, but we're building our history this year. And I think it's really cool when you break it down and really kind of talk about it. It's fun to think about winning the tournament for the first time and getting your name on a trophy or what have you. So definitely executing on some of those member events and having a great Masters and being consistent with kind of our overnight stays and continuing to be us. We're different, we're unique, but it is the tree farm, and everyone's pretty pumped up to be a part of it. And we're just kind of continuing that momentum.
Yeah. Well, you guys are doing it right. Everybody wants to go play there. So if you haven't found a member yet, then definitely check out what you guys got going on in April and go play it. So
Totally.
highly recommend you do it. Jonathan, we've got to get you over there at some point.
Right.
But Drew, man, this has been a ton of fun. Thank you for doing this.
No, I appreciate you boys, man. This has been a blast. Love what you guys are doing in golf, and just a really cool thing in the Carolinas and Georgia to kind of get on with you boys, and hopefully to do it soon. Hopefully we can do a live show out in the club and maybe get ZB involved, and it should be fun. But I appreciate you guys having me. Ton
That'll
of
be
fun.
fun, man. Yeah, it's we're all about golf stories. You've got a great one in your history with what you've done and what you're currently doing, and the Tree Farm's a really cool spot. So I appreciate you doing this. But for Drew and for Jonathan, this is Robbie. You guys have been listening to another episode of the Whole Story Podcast.